Tonight, when the sun goes down, you're going to do something your brain barely registers anymore. You're going to turn on a light. And the darkness, that ancient, total, absolute darkness that your ancestors lived inside every single night for 300,000 years, will never come. Most of us have never truly experienced darkness. Real darkness. The kind where you can't see your hand in front of your face. The kind where something could be standing 3 feet away and you'd never know. For nearly the entire history of our species, that was just called night. And your ancestors had to survive it every single day for hundreds of thousands of years. So what did they actually do with all those hours? The answer is going to change how you think about sleep, about storytelling, about your own mind, and maybe about that thing that happens when you wake up at 2 a.m. and can't get back to sleep. Let's start at the beginning. Fire. Because without fire, none of this story exists. The oldest solid evidence of humans controlling fire comes from Wonderwork Cave in South Africa, about 1 million years ago. But fire wasn't just warmth. Fire didn't just push back predators. Fire restructured time itself. Before fire, our ancestors operated on the same schedule as every other primate. Sun up, move. Sun down, stop moving, find shelter, stay completely still. Because moving at night meant becoming food. We have genuinely terrible night vision compared to the animals that hunted us. Leopards, hyenas, wolves, they could see perfectly. We couldn't. Fire changed that overnight. Literally. A campfire creates a circle of safety about 30 feet across. Inside that circle, you live. Outside it, the darkness belongs to everything that wants to eat you. Anthropologists studying modern hunter-gatherer communities today have documented that people who wander beyond the firelight at night are significantly more likely to be killed by predators. Even now. That's not ancient history, that's biology. But here's what fire actually gave us that nobody talks about. Time. Before fire, the useful day ended at sunset, 8 hours in winter, maybe 12 in summer. Fire handed our ancestors 2 to 4 extra hours every single night. And over thousands of generations, those hours didn't just pass, they built us into who we are. In 2014, anthropologist Polly Wiessner published something remarkable. She had spent years recording conversations among the Juhansi people of the Kalahari Desert, one of the last communities on Earth still living close to the original human way of life. And she found a pattern so consistent it was almost mathematical. During the day, about 80% of conversations were practical. Who's hunting where? Which plants are ready? Disputes, logistics. Daytime was work. But at night, around the fire, everything changed. Over 80% of nighttime conversations were stories, myths, tales of people in faraway places, jokes that made the whole camp erupt, descriptions of visions and dreams, speculation about the world. Wiessner's conclusion was stunning. The campfire was where human culture was born. It was the first theater, the first school, the first place of worship. Around that fire, humans learned to think beyond right now, to imagine things that didn't exist yet, worlds they'd never seen, futures they'd never reach. The fire didn't just keep us safe, it made us human. But there's another piece of this story, something scientists only rediscovered about 30 years ago. You were not built to sleep the way you sleep. In 2001, historian Roger Ekirch published research that quietly shook the world of sleep science. He had spent 16 years buried in historical documents, prayer books from the 1400s, court records, private diaries, medical texts, letters from ordinary people. And across centuries of writing, he found the same phrase appearing over and over. First sleep, second sleep. Before the industrial age, humans didn't sleep in one long block. They slept in 2. They'd go down shortly after dark, sleep for about 4 hours, then wake up. Stay awake for 1 to 2 hours, then sleep again until dawn. This wasn't insomnia. This wasn't a disorder. This was just sleep, the way humans had always slept. And what happened during that middle window? Everything. A French physician in the 1500s wrote that it was the ideal time for couples to conceive children. People visited neighbors. They prayed. They interpreted their dreams while they were still sharp and fresh. They wrote. They simply lay in the dark and thought, deeply, quietly, without interruption. One medical manual from that era described this window as the best time for study and reflection. The mind, it said, was uniquely calm, uniquely clear. Historians had been reading these references for centuries and missing them entirely, because they couldn't conceive of humans sleeping any other way than we do now. Some literally mistranslated ancient texts to make them fit the modern pattern. Then science caught up with history. In 1992, psychiatrist Thomas Ware at the National Institute of Mental Health ran an experiment. He took volunteers and removed all artificial light from their lives. For a month, they experienced 14 hours of darkness every night, the way our ancestors would have before fire extended the evening. Within weeks, without anyone suggesting it, every single participant fell into the same rhythm. 4 hours of sleep, 1 to 3 hours of quiet wakefulness, 4 more hours of sleep. Nobody told them to do this. Their bodies just remembered. And when Ware measured their hormone levels during that waking window, he found something that stopped him cold. The participants weren't just awake. They were in a state unlike any normal waking state. Their brains were flooded with prolactin, the same hormone released during deep meditation, during the moments after intimacy, during profound rest. They described it as peaceful, borderless, like being inside a waking dream. It wasn't a gap in sleep. It was its own form of consciousness, one that most people alive today have never experienced. So what killed it? Light. In the 1600s, cities started installing street lamps. Paris, London. The night, which had always been a place of danger and mystery, slowly became navigable. Then came cheaper candles, then gas lamps. Then, in 1879, Edison's electric bulb, and within a single generation, night as humans had known it for 300,000 years was simply gone. Here's something most people don't know. The word curfew comes from the French couvre-feu. It literally means cover fire. In medieval towns, a bell rang at night telling everyone to extinguish their flames. Not for safety, because night was supposed to be dark, because darkness was where you slept. In many medieval cities, walking outside after dark without a lantern was illegal. Night belonged to criminals and to God. People were afraid of the dark in a way we genuinely cannot imagine today. And then we conquered it. We flooded it with light and called it progress. But here's what we didn't talk about. The average modern person is exposed to artificial light 7 to 8 hours past sunset. That light, especially the blue light pouring out of your phone right now, suppresses melatonin, the hormone that governs your sleep cycle. Your brain cannot tell the difference between a screen and the sun. When light hits your retina at 11 p.m., your body thinks it's noon. It delays sleep. It fragments it. It dismantles a circadian rhythm that took millions of years to build. Researchers have found that people who spend just 1 week camping with no artificial light reset their melatonin cycle by nearly 2 hours. Their bodies begin producing it at sunset, exactly the way they were designed to. 1 week. That's all it takes for 300,000 years of programming to come back online. We didn't just change when we sleep. We erased an entire state of human consciousness. That quiet, meditative window between first and second sleep, the state Ware's volunteers called peaceful, borderless, profound, doesn't exist for most people anymore. In its place, we have insomnia, and we treat it like a malfunction. But what if it isn't? What if waking up at 2 a.m., lying in the dark, mind drifting? What if that isn't your brain breaking down? What if that's your brain remembering exactly what it was built to do? For 300,000 years, your ancestors spent their nights inside a rhythm that kept them alive, connected, and deeply human. They gathered around fire and told stories that built civilizations. They slept in 2 phases, with a window of reflection between them. They looked up at a sky so dark that the Milky Way wasn't something you drove to see. It was just there, every night, above everything. And in that quiet hour between first and second sleep, they lay in the dark and thought about their lives, about their dreams, about the world they would wake up to. We traded all of that for a light switch. Most of us never even knew it was gone, but now you do.